Today, my special guest is Leo from Superhog, and the goal for today is to understand more about Superhog and how it's going to help you as a Bookster client. So, Leo, what's your position and background in Superhog?
Hi, Johnny. Great to be here. I'm the VP of Growth and one of the co-founders at Superhog.
Perfect. So you'd be the ideal person to tell me a little bit about the history of Superhog and where the idea came from.
Yeah, that's right. So Superhog started life as an insurance company, so Guardhog Insurance. That was our first project. But we always knew at that stage we wanted to create tools to make the hosting experience safer, hence Superhog. Superhog is risk management software, which you plug in to make sure that we can screen your guests so you know who they are ahead of time. Because if we can verify a guest beforehand, we can make a booking a lot safer, and prevention is better than cure. So yes, you still need protection, and Superhog has a protection attached to it to make sure that if the worst happens, you're compensated. But we're also screening guests to get ahead of problems, and that is how you're really going to reduce risk and stop too many problems happening.
Perfect. So as you said, prevention is better than cure. So we know that the ideal goal is to get the good guests and prevent bad ones. But what products are you offering in order to get to that resolution?
Yeah, sure. So quite correct. So the most important thing we do is we screen guests, and that is our primary product. So we screen their names, their emails, their phone numbers, their date of birth, their home address. We can run our checks on that information to make sure they don't flag to our database, to make sure that those details haven't been used in a fraudulent booking, haven't been used in a booking where things have turned into a criminal activity of any nature like that. We can also add on top of that ID screening, so you can screen someone's ID and match it with a selfie. We also provide the ability to collect a damage waiver and deposit, which helps mitigate risks. And then you have our Superhog damage protection plan, which is the big stuff, which is what protects you against damage to your property, so you can claim and get a refund for big significant damage that might happen during a booking.
We've got Hannah back as my special guest, and the goal for the next few sessions is to dig into the details of Superhog's products, starting with the intelligent guest screenings and the ID capture. So Hannah, tell me how the guest screening and ID capture helps protect our property managers.
Yeah, so we've got these two levels of screening. The intelligent guest screening is really looking at the detail in the data that the guest is giving us. So the email address, the mobile number, and where the guest is completing the check. So what we're looking at is the email address valid? Is it connected to their social media accounts? Are they using it on other accounts that they've registered for online? We then check like the IP address information, where the guest is completing the check. We look at that compared to where the guest is located. So where is their address that they've given us? Then with the mobile, we look at whether it's a burner phone, so used for criminal activity, and then we do additional checks to check like the location of the phone, as in where is it based. So if the guest says they live in the UK, but the phone is registered to, I don't know, Turkey or somewhere like that, then that may flag. So we're building a profile that the guest is who they say they are based on the information that they're providing us. Then we have the ID and capturing the ID from the guest. We ask the guest to do that live. So that is preventing potential bad guests that might be criminals pretending to be somebody else, where they might have preloaded images that they would upload, and people just pretending to be other people. So that's going to stop those people from getting through that process, because they're not going to want to do it. And obviously the genuine guests will go through that process, and we do check the facial recognition matches and the name matches the ID, and we then store that, which is obviously a good thing for hosts, because they may not have a way of storing data securely. So obviously we're doing that for them. So that kind of alleviates that problem for them. Okay.
Perfect. Well, that totally explains the guest screening and the ID capture. So that's going to leave that there for today's video. This part of the series of videos is to understand Superhog's products, and today we're going to be discovering the damage protection plan. So Hannah, could you tell me how the damage protection plan protects property managers?
Yeah, I think the first thing to mention that's really key about the damage protection plan is that it works differently or slightly differently than like an insurance product would, in the sense that part of what we do is the guest screening, and that's compulsory to what we do. So the guest has to have verified and approved with us in order to put the damage protection plan in place. Because essentially what we're saying is, if the guest is unverified and they're not approved by us, then you should maybe think twice about hosting them in your property. So the damage protection plan kicks in when the guest is verified. And what that gives you as the host is protection right down to £50 up to the equivalent of $5 million, which is about £3 million of protection for guest damages.
If I'm a property manager and I'm using Airbnb's air cover, will air cover protect me, or what does the damage protection plan give me that air cover doesn't?
So we like to see that if you're going to use us as your service provider for protection, that you come to us for everything first, because we see us as like the primary coverage for your property, mainly because we're specialists in damage protection. We're not Airbnb who are promoting guests to come to them and keep coming back to them. We work directly with the host, and we're there to protect them, and we're not there to entice the guests to come back with us. So we like to see ourselves as the primary protection. So there are a lot of property managers that will still ask us to verify and protect their Airbnb bookings, because they want to definitely know that they're covered for any eventuality that happens. With air cover, I don't want to say it's good or it's bad, because I'm not a user of that specifically, and everyone has different scenarios and different situations that they've had with it. But there are stories that where they haven't paid out on things, and therefore that's one of the reasons why people come to us for that protection, is because we're working specifically with the host to give them protection.
And today we've got Leo back as my special guest from Superhog, and this part of the series of videos we're going to talk about the damage waivers and the damage deposit. So Leo, can you tell me how the damage waivers and the damage deposit helps protect our property managers?
Sure. So when it comes to small damages, very often it's very hard to tell who exactly has caused the damage, whether it's wear and tear, whether it can be attributed to one particular guest. So often we think the best approach is to just collect a small non-refundable fee from every single guest to accumulate and build up a fund of money yourself to pay for any damages capped at the value of, say, £500 whenever they come along. So we build into the journey, if you want us to, the ability to collect said fee from the guest. We typically suggest that people go with about £35, $40, $50, something of that value, to give them the ability to waive their liability for any accidental damage up to £500. Alongside that, you'll also give them the option of paying a refundable damage deposit of the value of £500. So the guest doesn't feel backed into a corner or made to do a certain thing they don't want to do. They've got the choice. If you give the guest the option between paying a non-refundable damage waiver of about £35 or paying a refundable damage deposit, in 85% of the cases, they'll choose the non-refundable damage waiver. So that means that in 85% of your bookings, you're getting an extra £35 into a pot of money to pay for damages as and when they come along. So effectively, you are controlling what happens if you have a small damage claim. You don't need to go to anyone else. You don't need to approach the platform. You don't need to approach the guest. You've got the money there to pay for it. And by pricing at that level, at £35, you will make revenue from this. You'll have more money in the pot than you need to spend, which means you can always pay for damages, and you recoup some of the costs around the admin time of actually fixing things. If your guest chooses the damage waiver, we'll remit that to you in arrears on a monthly basis. If they choose the damage deposit, we'll keep it, we'll hold it, and we'll only give it back to the guest 14 days after the checkout if no damage has been reported. And if you'd like that to be 7 days or 5 days, that's up to you. We can change that. But as standard, that's 14 days. So ultimately, you're giving full flexibility to your guests. They can still pay the traditional damage deposit if they prefer, but you know that you're protected definitively in case anything goes wrong.
That's superb. And since you kind of introduced both those options, how have guests reacted to that? Are they more likely to choose the waiver than the deposit?
Yeah, much more likely to choose the waiver. 85% will choose the waiver. But also as well, it really helps them understand why they're doing the guest screening in general. So it helps drive more people to quickly go and get that guest screening done because they understand it's a part of the checkout process. Paying a damage deposit or a damage waiver is a really obvious thing that you have to go and do. So we've actually found it really helps increase how quickly people finish the whole process.
Today, we're just going to be covering the guest journey when guests use Superhog products and the steps to take if there's a problem. So, Leo, first, can you talk me through the guest journey and what does the guest see from their perspective?
Sure. So the first introduction of guest screening to them will be written in the blurb and the listing. And the property manager will do this ahead of time so they know that they're going to be screened. They'll then receive a text message or an email, depending on what booking channel the bookings come from and what level of data we're able to collect. So an email or a text message from us to start that process. That journey is white labeled. We put the property manager's branding at the front and center of that so that Superhog's very much in the background so the guest feels like they're in your experience. They are then prompted, they go through screens and they're prompted to provide different pieces of information. The first screen being name, personal details of, home address, date of birth. Next screen, if you want to include it, would be taking a picture of their ID and matching it with a selfie, taking a picture of the selfie. Then you move on to them ticking some terms and conditions. And then if you're including it, they would see a screen for payment where they would choose either a damage waiver or a deposit. That whole journey only takes about a minute and a half. So in that process, we see it as being we're the end of your checkout journey, right? That is them finishing their transaction with you, but clearly they've already paid, but it's them doing their extra bits that they need to do. And like I said at the start, we really focus on us being pushed into Superhog being pushed into the background and your branding being front and center.
Perfect. And what happens if the guest doesn't complete that process?
Yeah, so if they don't, you'll receive an alert from us. You get emails from us. You can also look on your Superhog dashboard. That'll tell you what the status of each verification is. Has it been started? Is it stuck somewhere? Is it not completed? Has it been flagged? You'll see all of that information and you'll receive emails from us too.
That's great. Now, thinking about if the worst did happen and there is a problem, what is the process for the property managers in terms of making a compensation request from the Superhog resolution team?
Yeah, sure. So it's really, really important. Resolution issues arise very, very, very often. That's why we are doing what we do. So you have the ability to begin a resolutions request in your Superhog dashboard. So you'll see there's a button so you can reach out to the resolutions team to report damage and start to begin the process of claiming compensation. You can also email the team at resolutions.superhog.com, or you can simply email the account management team, am@superhog.com, and tell them what's happened. So either way, you can use email or you can go into the resolution center straight away from your Superhog dashboard.
So even if the worst happens, it sounds like a nice, easy process to kind of complete that resolution.
We know people panic when things go wrong quite naturally, so there's lots of touch points you can use to start that process.
Brilliant. Now, my final question for today is, as a property manager, is there anything that I would need to do when using Superhog, or is it all pretty much done without much input from myself at all?
So it is done without any input, without needing any input. But when you purchase Superhog, you'll receive an email from someone on our account management team to have a call with you and talk about it further, just to go through your account and make sure you fully understand how it works. But yeah, it's plug in and ready to go.